So, welcome. We are so grateful to have all of you joining us today, and welcome to today's webinar of 5 marketing must-haves in today's digital world. We have some great information to share with you today, but I'd first like to introduce ourselves. So I'm Jessica Ng, Vice President of Marketing here at Allegra Network, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. We're pleased to be sponsoring and hosting today's webinar, but even more excited to have the esteemed Ruth Stephens with us today as our speaker. Ruth is a seasoned professional, and throughout her successful career has held senior marketing positions at Time Warner, Ziff Davis, and IBM. Currently, Ruth is president of her own company, E-Marketing Strategy, where she consults with small and large companies on customer acquisition and retention, amongst many other topics. She teaches marketing at Columbia Business School and also received her MBA from Columbia. She's past chair of the DMA Business to Business Council and currently serves as president of the Direct Marketing Club of New York. Crain's B2B magazine named Ruth one of the 100 most influential people in business marketing, and she's the author of several books, including her latest, Maximizing Lead Generation, the Complete Guide for B2B Marketers. But before I turn it over to Ruth, I'd like to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. Because we're recording today's session, we will have all attendees muted throughout the entire webinar. The recorded presentation, along with the slides, will be available later this week on the Allegra Network website, www.allegranetwork.com, under the Resources tab. However, we'd still like to hear from you, so please enter your questions into the question box on your screen. We will answer them before the end of the webinar. If we run out of time at the end of the webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you and get you the answers to your questions. And now a quick word from your sponsor. Allegra Network is a $300 million organization comprised of 500 independently owned and operated businesses in the graphic communications industry. Our members operate under the Allegra Marketing Print Mail, American Speedy Printing Centers, and InstiPrint brands in the United States, and we also have Allegra Marketing Print Mail, Speedy Printing Centers, and Zippy Print locations throughout Canada. Our locations offer an array of marketing, design, printing, mailing, and signage services, everything you might need to promote and grow your business. Whether it's designing or writing a printed or digital newsletter, printing and mailing a direct mail campaign, or developing and optimizing a mobile or desktop website, our members can be your one-stop local solution for communication strategies. We have a passion for helping businesses like yours. So in that vein, I'd like to kick off this webinar to provide you with great information about how to make the most of your marketing efforts in today's digital world. So it's my honor to turn it over to Ruth Stephens.
Thank you, Jessica. Very happy to be here, and hello, everybody. We have a lot of material to share with you today, so I'm going to dive right in, beginning with a bit about marketing planning, because even though of all of the millions of marketing activities we could do, we are boiling this down to 5 must-haves that we're recommending to you. It makes a lot of sense to do some planning in advance of selecting how you're going to do your marketing by understanding who is your target audience and establishing a clear sense of how you are positioned against your competitors. So let me begin very quickly with an introduction about marketing planning as a whole. And of course, the reason is that if you haven't really planned properly, you can waste a lot of money and time flailing around doing stuff that isn't necessarily going to be as laser focused as it should be to reach your key audiences and communicate the essential messages to them. So let's begin a discussion of marketing planning very quickly by acknowledging that the first thing that you need to do is establish clearly in your head who is your target audience. And in business markets, in consumer markets, you may be serving both markets, but it's essential to have a good understanding of who these targets are, these consumers, these households, these businesses, whatever. And the way marketers typically understand their nature is by describing them using particular characteristics, which I've listed here. So in business markets, we typically describe our targets by what industry they're in and how big their company is. And maybe if we're going down to the individual level, we might be targeting particular job functions or titles in those companies and gaining some understanding of what they need and how we can serve them, and what they're doing today and how we want to help them do better. On the consumer side, of course, marketers typically describe their target audiences by demographics and geography. So you might be saying households of a certain income level, or individuals, whether it's moms or children or whoever you're going after in terms of demographics, age, income, and so forth, but also doing some analysis of what they need and how you can serve those needs. Maybe it's about their interests or what products they're using today and how you want to help them do better. Now, one not so new but interesting development that has generated enormous popularity in the digital world is the idea of creating a so-called persona, which is a verbal description of your target audience. Even adding some sort of quirky local color about what's really going on in the mind of this person, and what keeps him up at night, or what the things are that drive that person, and give you an opportunity to market to him effectively. Now, in the old days, this used to be called a profile, but in the world of the internet, people are calling this a persona, so that you can develop more relevant communications because you have understood the type of person he or she is, and not only are you developing the right kinds of messaging, you're also crafting value propositions and offers that are of maximal relevance and interest to that target. So this exercise of creating different personas among your target audience segments can really be helpful and is recommended. Then the next step, once you've identified your target audience, is to create a so-called value proposition. And I have a very simple template here to offer you that allows you to create a value proposition statement according to a 6-step set of elements of a formula. And I'm not going to read these here, but essentially you're trying to describe who you're targeting, why they should be interested in what you have to offer, and how your offering is more valuable or perceived as more valuable than your competitor. And you want to actually name your competitor in this statement. Just to be clear, these value proposition statements are for internal use to help you do your marketing planning, crafting your messaging, and making sure you are positioning yourself in the mind of the prospect in a way that differentiates you from the competition and allows you to deliver value that the target audience really wants. Now, many marketers who are operating in complex environments and may have several different target audiences for whom the deliverable is, or the value is perceived differently, you might want to craft several of these value propositions. But once you've put one together, and I've got an example here from CVS that's designed, which I actually wrote myself. This is not necessarily how CVS sees things, but how I imagined they might see it. And this is to help CVS position themselves as a one-stop shop. It's a convenience kind of positioning compared to the small local drugstores that they compete against in towns and cities all over the country. So I hope that by crafting this this kind of value proposition, it'll help you really develop a statement that can guide all of your marketing efforts once we get to the 5 must-haves. Then the next step is to set clear objectives. And this is something that marketers sometimes want to shirk, and it's not a good idea because, well, there are many reasons why objective setting is important, generally so that you know where you're going and you can declare success once you get there. But the objectives can be as strategic as you want them to be or as tactical as you want them to be. The 5 here are fairly strategic style objectives, but very typical of how businesses large and small think about why they are conducting marketing activities. So you want to select at least 1, maybe 2 primary objectives, and you might want to have 1 or 2 secondary objectives underneath that. I'm also going to leave you with a bunch of very a broader list of potential objectives that might help stimulate your thinking. But one thing we do know is that your objective wants to be very specific, very tangible, attainable, and clear. And so one way to do that is to make sure that you're actually including numbers, see all the numbers in here, and that you are including a time frame within your objective. So by when does this objective have to be met? And that way you can be sure that when the time elapses, you're able to determine whether you met your objectives or not, and if not, then refine them going forward or improve your marketing strategies. So with that, we've got some planning done. It's fairly simple, very straightforward set of steps that will allow you to spend your marketing dollars more effectively. So now it's time to dive into the must-haves. And as you noticed earlier, Jessica provided a pretty enticing list of what Allegra offers in terms of the Allegra franchisees have several dozen capabilities that you can choose from. And sometimes it gets a little bit overwhelming. So with this webinar, we want to focus down on the most essential marketing and marketing communications activities that every business needs to have nailed. And once you have those nailed, then you can start getting creative and adding additional elements. And of course, keep in mind that these 5 elements that we're focused on are fairly generic, meaning we're trying to serve as broadly the business marketplace as we can. So you need to bring judgment to this list, and in your situation, you may want to even pick and choose within these 5 must-haves. But to begin with, the first of the 5 is about your website. Now, the Internet has only been around for 10 or 15 years, but it's already established itself as the #1 billboard for your business. And it's gotten to the point today that if you don't have a website, you don't really have a business. And the best practices in how your website should be crafted and populated have started to really mature. And we have a lot of data that suggests that a well-crafted website includes these 3 elements, among many other elements. But I wanted to focus on these 3 in particular because they're often neglected, especially by smaller businesses. The first is that you want to consider the concept of search engine optimization as you design the navigation and craft the copy for your website. We do know today that most consumers, most businesses first search online before they decide where they're going to do their buying. So you want to be found, and search engine optimization is simply the way to do that. That means that whatever you're offering needs to be stated clearly and frequently in the copy on your site, on all of the pages of your site, and that you also use techniques like tags and make sure that those words identify you based on what you have to offer in the marketplace. The second key element of that you want to make sure your website offers is external validation. And what this means is that you want to take what you're saying about your excellence and the great value that you provide and make sure that other people are saying the same thing. So this means asking your customers for testimonials and quoting your satisfied customers on the site. It may also be including case examples of how you have solved problems or improved the lives of your customers, and showing in some detail how that worked. So external validation allows you to let your satisfied customers be your awareness builders and referral engines. So I often see sites that forget this important opportunity. And then the third element is known as content, and this can mean all kinds of things, but it's generally classified as material that allows your prospects and current customers to become better buyers of your service. It's essentially educational material. And this can be like if you're running a restaurant, it would be a menu, as simple as that. There's a list in the right-hand column here of all the types of content that marketers are using today in terms of formats and the kinds of materials that consumers and business people need and value. But there are essentially two things going on when you think about content as it relates to your website. One is that you're helping educate prospects and establishing yourself as a solution provider or a thought leader or someone who can really help them and help them be a better customer of yours. But the other is, and this is why we're listing it here in this website section, is that content is a wonderful search engine optimizer. That the words that are being described about your business, your solutions, and your customers' needs shows up on search engines and helps you be found more easily. Now, there's one other thing that I want to say about a well-crafted website that is specific to the business-to-business world. So if you are marketing to consumer audiences and households, this does not apply to you. But quickly, I want to make sure that business marketers are aware of this. It's important today to make sure that your website is optimized. Well, the word optimization is not really correct, but that your website includes an opportunity for customers to identify themselves. And the traditional way that this is done, and by the way, this part applies to both consumers and businesses, is you can invite people who visit your site to, in effect, register. You can ask them to leave behind their contact information in exchange for some good reason to do so. Now, one thing that can be that good reason is a piece of content that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get. Another might be that you're going to provide them with some kind of discount or something of value that encourages them to give you their email address, their first name, last name, maybe even their phone number. But this allows your website to become a database generator or a populator of your marketing database and gives you permission to stay in touch with them over time. So thinking of your website simply as a brochure, even if it's filled with useful content, is not enough. You also want to at least consider converting your website into a name generator or a contact information generator. This example on the screen here shows how a fairly sizable security software company called RSA does this. As you can see in the left-hand column, this is their home page. In the red box there, they're offering a document where they say, get the full report now, a document about advice from Fortune 1000 security executives that if you are a large company and want to know more about security, this is probably an irresistible piece of information. And you click on that red box and are taken to a landing page, which is shown here on the right, that resells you on the importance of getting this content and asks for a certain amount of information. And this is how business-to-business marketers today turn their websites into lead generation machines, and it applies to consumers as well. But the one piece that does not apply to consumer marketers I want to go into now, and this is a new technique that business marketers are using to capture the company name of visitors to their sites. Now, this might creep you out a little bit, but it's certainly entirely legit, where you use analytic tools. You can use Google Analytics for free to do this. You identify the IP address of the visitor, and assuming that it's an IP address from a company site, if the person came from Hotmail or AOL, it's not going to be possible to identify their company. But if they come from the company domain, like joesplumber.com, you would be able to determine through comparing the IP address with a registry of domain name providers that the visitor came from that company. Now, again, this doesn't apply to consumer, but it allows you to find out which companies, which employees of which companies are coming to your site. You can also find out through Google Analytics or by using some of these service providers that I've listed at the bottom, extra information about what search term they were using when they found you and how many pages and how much time they spent on each page. So this is something that I truly recommend for business-to-business marketers. In terms of action, you do not have the direct contact information of the visitor himself or herself. You don't know actually who it was from that company, but it does allow you to get a sense of what companies might be searching for information in your category, and might allow you to take some kind of marketing action, like a phone call into that company, just a cold call saying, hi, we offer X, do you have any interest in it? So that's an opportunity for de-anonymizing the web visitors if they're coming from business domains. And as I mentioned at the bottom of this slide, there are several service providers that enable this to be much faster. Visitor Track is one of them, and they provide a report not only of the name of the company that visited you and when and how long they stayed, but also provides you with publicly available contact information, like in the lower right here, that allows you to decide who you're going to call. And again, this is not necessarily the person who visited your site, but at least it gives you some more targeting for outbound communication. So with that, we've pretty much discussed the very important elements that make sense in the world of designing a crackerjack website, which is the essential business tool today. And you can take whatever website you have today and apply these techniques and bring your website up to the next level. And the Allegra franchisees can really help you with that as well. So please do keep that in mind. But the second thing you want to be sure you're focusing on is search engine marketing. And we talked about search engine optimization, which is making you more findable through organic search or organic listings, but you also want to consider paying for search engine ads, which are primarily these days, Google being the the monster that is sucking up most of the search engine marketing dollars, but also Bing and Yahoo, and if you are in certain vertical sectors, then there are also vertical search engines around, especially in the B2B world. But if you are conducting search engine marketing and bidding on keywords using Google AdWords or other search engines, I want to suggest a couple of ways to make your search engine advertising more effective. And I've got 4 ideas for you here for how to craft an ad that when visitors are searching on the keywords that are important in your market, that you will get the click. And of course, you want a qualified click, not an unqualified click. So there are 4 tips here that I'd like to go into a little bit. The first is, and this is often forgotten today, that the ad that you write should really be reflective of the particular keyword that the target is searching on. And making that connection and writing a different ad for different keywords is often neglected today. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it can vastly improve your results. So I suggest you do that. I've got some examples on the bottom here where the keywords that we bid on in this example were Dyson animal vacuum. We're all familiar with the Dyson vacuums, but there's a particular type of vacuum called the animal vacuum, and if you look at the strong example of copy there on the right, you can see that we've tied the copy specifically to the Dyson animal vacuums compared to the weak example on the left, where the animal angle is neglected. The second thing that you want to make sure you're focused on is adding a motivational offer and a call to action. You notice in the strong example on the lower right that free shipping is the motivational offer, completely neglected in the weak example on the left. And I've been looking at search engine ads for a while now, and I noticed that in about 60% of cases there is no offer and call to action, which just mystifies me, because if you are paying for an ad intended to attract a target and try to get him or her to click through, then you certainly want to increase the chance that someone searching in your category is going to click. So an offer and a call to action is the way to do that. Then the third thing that is often neglected by marketers today is including a dedicated landing page that will go directly to the point of that was promised in the ad. And I'll show you an example of how to craft some excellent landing pages in a minute. But it's really essential that the search engine ad does not take the clicker to your generic website. That is not what you've offered them in the search ad. Instead, you want to continue the message in the most relevant way possible to deliver on the promise that you made in the ad, whether it's the offer or the value proposition. And if you just send them to your website, not only have you lost the opportunity to establish a relationship by collecting their contact information, but you've also lost an opportunity to continue the selling message and make it as relevant as possible. And then, of course, the last point is about testing. And search engine advertising is set up to be extremely easy to conduct tests in. So if you're not testing and constantly refining your message, the copy you use, the offer that you're making, you're missing an opportunity to optimize the power of your marketing communications. Now, another angle that's developing great strength in the world of search engine marketing today is the importance of local search. And it's growing dramatically that, especially in with the arrival of tablets and smartphones, where a lot of the search that is happening today is being done when people are out and about and they're not at their desktops. And these people are heavily searching for local solutions. So you want to be there when they are searching. And the best way to do that is twofold. One is to make sure your website copy has local terms in it. I've got a couple of examples here. Chicago Life Insurance Agent, for example, should be the way you write the copy if you are a local business person, and make sure that your website has been optimized for local searches. But the other thing that you may not have thought of before is that you want to make sure that you are found in local listings like the old Yellow Pages now, all of which are, there's a list of local engines on the right in the box here, but all of these guys are online today and are supporting local search. So you want to make sure that you are listed in those directories so that when someone is searching for a laundromat or whatever, plumber or whatever local service, that your listing is there. It's a process called claiming, and it can be, it takes a little bit of time. It's not hard to do, but it takes some time, and your Allegra service provider actually can help you with that in a pretty low-cost service offering. So I suggest you take advantage, because just for a couple of bucks you can get this thing set, and you only have to update it every so often. So it's a pretty great way to be found against local search queries from customers and prospects. Now, I also just wanted to have make one more comment about landing pages, which, as I said earlier, are really essential to actually closing the deal. You might consider, in fact, there are some marketing experts who view the search engine ad as the equivalent of the direct mail outer envelope. Isn't that sort of neat, that it's like the teaser that gets you to look inside? And it's in the landing page where you're actually doing the selling. I mean, let's face it, the search engine ad only offers a couple of characters, maybe a handful of words to get your message across. So it literally is a teaser type of communication. But on the landing page itself, that's where you have the space and the flexibility to really do the selling. So what we know today is that if you connect the landing page visually with the ad, now this would be if you were using banner ads where there was some graphics, but it's also true for search engine advertising, that if you connect the messaging that people find on the landing page to the messaging in the original ad, you can improve the response that you get on the landing page by as much as 48%. That's pretty great, because you're not spending any more money to get that improvement. Essentially, you want your copy to deliver on the ad's promise, and then you have to determine what data elements you want to ask for. The general wisdom is asking for less will increase the likelihood of capturing anything. So it's a good idea at the opening of the relationship to only ask for, say, first name, last name, and email address. And that will give you likely the highest response rate. But there may be good reasons in your business why you only really want to populate your database with highly qualified prospects or prospects that have certain characteristics, in which case asking for additional information may serve your business need. In such cases, you might want to figure out how to populate the landing page in advance if you are using a medium that allows you to carry that data with you. But again, here in the world of landing pages, testing can help you optimize the productivity of the landing page by testing copy placement, the copy itself, the format, and various elements that you can include. Like I have this example on the right where Ion Interactive, which is an agency that specializes in landing pages, was able to improve conversion meaning people filled out the form and actually left behind their contact information, by 300% simply by adding a video in. They did an A/B split head-to-head test where you can see in the upper left-hand corner they had an image, and in the lower right-hand corner they had a video, and everything else was controlled and exactly identical. But the inclusion of the video increased conversion by 300%, which is pretty great, is it not? So with that, my friends, we've come to a point where we could stop and take a few questions if you'd like. I've already gone through the planning section and the 2 of the 5 marketing must-haves. Jessica, are there questions that have come in through the text chat that we could address right now, or shall I keep going?
A real quick question, Ruth. There was a question on best ways to test both, the copy as well as the keywords in Google AdWords for search engine marketing. What are some best tips in testing to improve performance?
Yeah, great question. These days, the A/B split testing is so simple to set up that you might want to start there. And of course, what you might be asking is how to rank the variables that you want to test. And generally, the first thing that you should be testing is the offer, because that is going to drive so much of the power of motivating people to respond. So a split test where a free download is tested against free shipping. I'm making this up, but an offer test like that would be the place to start. And then thereafter, start testing copy. And this would be copy in the search engine ad headline to begin with, and body copy. But of course, in A/B split testing, you can only test one variable at a time. That's very limiting in the world of digital marketing. So you might want to set up a multivariate test, which you can do, again, for free using Google Optimizer, a free tool that allows you to do multivariate testing on your search engine advertising. So I hope that's helpful. Anything else, Jessica?
That's great, Ruth. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You can please continue. Thanks.
Okay, so let's move on to must-have number 3, which after you've gotten your website really to the place where you want it, and you've been playing around with search engine marketing and AdWords and doing some outreach in the search engine world, the third thing that you have to have in your marketing toolkit is sort of under the generic umbrella of sales collateral. And it's hard to pin down exactly what you need in the world of sales collateral, but to begin with, everyone in your company who has the opportunity to talk to customers needs to have a business card. And I've known as professional identity materials. These days, business card design is gotten so creative and interesting. The opportunity to be memorable and eye-catching and not only gain attention but keep attention from your customers and prospects is really great today, because we can design the business card in all kinds of ways using beautiful graphics and interesting copy. But I would also say that additional materials, like if you are an executive who is writing notes to your customers and prospects, thank you notes or personal notes, you certainly might want to have a good quality stationery or note cards with envelopes that are pre-printed with your business address. It really is a function of what your personal style is. But there is still as digital as we've gotten, printed material for identifying your business is still really important. And the same goes for take-ones or other physical brochures that either your salespeople might need for leave-behinds on sales calls, or that you might want to have by your cash register or inside your place of business for people to take away. Even with all of the digital materials that we do need to produce today, there's nothing like print material. So point-of-sale materials and brochures are still an essential part of the B2B toolkit today. Now, all of these materials are can now be housed under the important category called content marketing, which I talked about a little bit earlier in relation to populating your website with useful material. But I want to talk a little bit about the whole world of content marketing today, because it is really becoming the hot topic with good reason. It's not just a flash in the pan. It's not just the latest shiny gizmo. It is turning out to be an important way that you can use to differentiate yourself from your competition. The great thing about developing content, now this could be blogging, which by the way takes a lot of time, and you want to make sure you have that time before you do it, but creating materials that establish you as an authority in your field, but materials that actually help your customers and prospects do what they need to do. So in B2B, it would be get the job done. So if you can help your customers and prospects get their job done better, educate them, provide them with useful information, they will remember you, and you will establish not only a position in their minds, but also a trusted position that will help establish the relationship going forward. And in the consumer world, if you are providing them with information that helps them make their lives better, they will similarly remember you and think of you when they have a need in this area. So content marketing comes in all kinds of flavors. There's a chart on the right here that lists the most popular pieces of content in the B2B world. This has gotten to be so important in business marketing today that an institute called the Content Marketing Institute has sprung up and provides a tremendous amount of guidance and material to help you be a better content marketer. And Allegra themselves has been producing content for their customers and prospects for many years now and found it very successful. I've got an example here. On the left, a white paper called Direct Mail Essentials that Allegra has found very helpful in educating the franchisees' prospects and helping them not only do their job better, but also evaluate their vendors in a more effective way. So content marketing is an area that is starting to gain real traction and can help at a very relatively low cost differentiate you from your competitors down the street. So I urge you to consider that. And another new development in marketing today is in the world of video. I've got some data here in the chart on the left that suggests that, man, video marketing is everywhere and has really, really improved results. We've already seen an example. In the box on the right, here's some ideas of where you could use a video if you created one. It's so easy today using a little a smartphone or a flip camera. You can create pretty well done, not too shaky videos, whether it's a talking head or a demonstration or a product information, and then you can apply it all over the place. In your website, you can put it in your blog and Facebook, your Facebook page, and so forth. So video is really starting to take off and is not too expensive, and I really urge you to consider it. So now moving on to must-have number 4, this is about prospecting. How are we going to go find new customers? Well, this is really the fundamental issue that many businesses face, and there are two ways to go about it that I'd like to discuss briefly. The first is by understanding your current customers and then trying to go find lookalikes or similar prospects out there in the great prospect universe. And database marketing can actually help you do this very efficiently. We'll talk about that in a second. But the second area is using marketing communications for outreach to prospects, presumably the ones that you've identified as the most likely to be similar to your current customers. And these are communications using a variety of media channels, but all of us need prospecting programs in our marketing toolkits today. So let's dig into this a little bit more. To begin with, it's important to segment and profile your current customer database. And this database could be a list of 10, it could be hundreds, it could be thousands, but certainly you have a list of who's doing business with you today, whether it's from your billing systems or just cards or whatever you have. Allegra can provide you with additional information about your current customers by using a process known as data append, and they can add as many as 28 consumer and 16 business demographic elements that allow you to gain richer insight into who these people are, and then apply those insights to the unwashed prospect universe and help you identify people who look like them. So the one thing that you want to keep in mind as you're doing this look-alike analysis for prospecting purposes is that it's a good idea to use segmentation. In consumer, in consumer and B2B, this might be segmentation by buying behavior, like customers who haven't been around for a long time versus very active current customers might be a useful segment. Might be about customer value, like who are my top customers and who are my worst, least profitable customers. And then, again, Allegra can help you find lookalikes, not only for identifying new prospects, but also for crafting messages that are maximally relevant to them. So once the segmentation and lookalike analysis through profiling has been completed, then it's time to conduct outbound communications. And it's essential to keep in mind that the outbound communications, whether you're using mail or email or whatever media channel makes sense, you want to include a motivational offer. And this offer does not need to be a discount or a price-based offer. It may be something completely different, but something that is perceived as valuable by the prospect, and then make sure that you have a way to manage the responses when they come in. And if you're not trying to get the prospect to buy right on the spot, but you're actually generating a lead for further sales follow-up, then you also need to have a qualification and sales handoff process in place and a way to nurture or stay in touch with the prospects if they're not ready to buy. So I'm guessing that by now you're asking yourself, well, what media channel should I be using for outbound prospecting for getting new customers? And here is my recommendation for the top media channels for consumer markets and business markets. And there's certainly considerable amount of controversy about these lists, and you'll have to make your own decisions. But once you have selected the media, then you will want to compare your results against benchmarks that have been established in the industry. And I'm sharing with you some response rate benchmarks that come from the Direct Marketing Association by media channel. So this is the gross response rate, and I hope these will be helpful to you as a benchmark. And here are the cost per response benchmarks that you could compare your capabilities or your experience against. Similarly, when you're thinking about what offers make sense, here's some information that will help you determine which offer to start out with. These are ranked based on 1 to 5 effectiveness rating, and as you can see, the top incentive in consumer is a free gift or some kind of something for free, and the top in business markets is information. So no surprises there. Then once you've motivated someone to respond, you have to be able to capture that response and put the material in your database and handle the response properly. So we want to make sure that we're fulfilling on the promise. It's important to capture some kind of connective tissue between the outbound communication and the inbound response. This is known as the key code or the response code. If you are using digital channels, this is fairly simple. If you are using a method, an outbound medium that does not necessarily connect to the inbound response, then you have to figure out a way to capture that. One technique I see from my buds at CVS, they use outbound communications through email, but then the response vehicle is a printed coupon, which you can see in the lower right. You print out the coupon and use it at the store, and that way they're able to make that connection happen. And once you've received the response and possibly determined that the prospect is not really ready to buy, you want to put in place a nurturing process that will allow you to keep in touch with them. So with that, it's a very quick overview about outbound prospecting, and I'd like to move now to the fifth marketing must-have, which is customer development communications, because no matter when and how you established a business relationship with a prospect and converted him or her to a customer, you need to stay in touch with them. And deepening the customer relationship and getting them to buy more and more frequently is the name of the game here. Here are some tips about the best media channels for staying in touch with customers. You want to make sure that the messaging is relevant and perceived as valuable, and you also want to make sure that the information, the data that you keep about your customers is clean and accurate. So I've got a bunch of tips here for how to keep your contact information clean, and your Allegra partner can help you with this as well. So with that, I'm going to summarize the 5 marketing must-haves. These are the 5 that we've discussed in some detail. And if you have mastered these and nailed these, then you might find yourself with some time to do additional nice-to-haves. I just wanted to speak very briefly about 2 nice-to-haves that are getting a lot of hype and excitement today, and one of them is social media, which is just all the rage. You might be asking yourself now, why did Ruth not put social media in the must-have category? And I would say simply that it just hasn't proven its value yet, at least to my satisfaction. There are certainly plenty of anecdotes about how businesses have built their reputations and their revenues through social media. But I think that if you only have limited time and money, you want to start with the 5 must-haves first and then start experimenting with social media. And the second area that I would add to the nice-to-haves column is media relations. This is using third parties, whether it's journalists or bloggers or other third parties, to talk about you and in effect endorse you, whether through whether that's however you motivate them to do that. But the reason that media relations, also known as PR, is not in the 5 marketing must-haves is because it's so hard to control. And it's hard not only to scale, but primarily it's hard to develop predictive output from. And the reason, of course, is that you can't really force a journalist or a blogger to write about you. You can only persuade them. But there is a way to get additional value out of the PR channel or the media relations world, and that is to write your own articles and contribute them to the media channels that are read by your customers and prospects, whether those are industry journals or trade publications, or whether those are local newspapers or flyers in your neighborhood. The idea of harnessing your expertise and turning it into an article and contributing it to a local paper is still an idea that at very low cost can generate a lot of benefit for you. So with that, we've burned through quite a bit of material. I hope this is helpful to you in narrowing down your focus in marketing communications to the 5 things where you will get the most bang for the buck. And I know that there's so many opportunities in marketing and marketing communications to choose from. It can be overwhelming at times. So I hope these 5 will help you get some focus and get some results and take your business to the next level. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic back to Jessica, and I think we have time for a couple of questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Ruth. That was excellent. I'm sure everyone walked away with at least a few new ideas